Hey, everybody, this is Steve Hughes with another episode of Ordinary People, Extraordinary Grit. And as I've said on my other videos, grit is that indomitable spirit that people have that I truly believe we all have deep inside. Some folks have a harder time finding it, but it's there. And I wanted to do this series of videos to highlight people that have come into my life that I have been inspired by, and I think have amazing grit. And it's that grit that allows them to do the things they do and to be the inspiration that they are to other people. So today, I'm with Benjamin Hinton, and Ben, you live in Pittsburgh, right?
Yep, live in Pittsburgh, just outside of it, in a town called Bethel Park, PA. So many suburbs or so many areas right outside of Pittsburgh that we just love the Pittsburgh, so we just all say we're from Pittsburgh.
Yeah. But I have some good friends who live there in that area as well. He's a big Steelers fan, Pirates fan, all that stuff. So, anyways, good. Well, good. So let me. So just so you know, Ben was born with the herpes simplex virus, and at 6 weeks old, he was also diagnosed with meningitis and encephalitis. So already, he had a couple strikes against him right off the bat. At the age of 13, Ben lost the sight in his right eye, and in 2013, actually, he almost lost the sight in his other eye as well. But in 2013, he had an accident at home, and that resulted in a very serious traumatic brain injury. So, Ben, why don't you go ahead and tell us and listeners, kind of fill in that space between birth to where we are today, and then we'll do some questions. How about that?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, and I love that you find me as a person of inspiration and with grit. So I really appreciate that to have a moment or platform to encourage others. So I was born with meningitis encephalitis. I was diagnosed at 6 weeks old. Um, in 1986, at that time, with meningitis encephalitis with the herpes virus, it was about a 20% chance of survival. 2019, that chance is completely reversed due to medical science and everything like that. Like you said, the strikes were definitely against me. So with this virus of meningitis encephalitis, I was told that I was going to have severe delays, cognitive issues. My mom was told I was probably going to lose my hearing and my vision by the time I was 5 years old. So fast forward to when I was just before I turned 13, I was 12 years old. I was at school, I was seventh grade, and started having some issues with my eye. I didn't really think anything of it. There was actually a ophthalmology office just across the street. We went there. I got checked out. I was actually misdiagnosed. It was such a rare condition. So it actually looked like pink eye. So that's what it was diagnosed with. So it being misdiagnosed, it caused the virus to grow even more rapidly and attacking the retina. And so I ended up losing sight in my right eye due to the virus when I was 13 years old. When I was 16 years old, just about 3 years later, we knew what it was, knew what the symptoms were, everything like that. I ended up losing the vision in my right eye due to the misdiagnosed of pink eye. It caused the virus to grow more rapidly because the virus attacks the retina, attacks the optic nerve. Once the retina detaches, you only have so much time in a window to get it to be reattached. So then when I was 16 years old, the same virus attacked my left eye. Now, the thing with this virus is, again, meningitis encephalitis. It's something that attacks the optic nerve. It's a condition that you cannot fix. So it's always dormant. It's a lot like with the herpes simplex. It's a lot like cold sores. Many people have cold sores. Many people will have the virus for cold sores. They just never get an outbreak. And it's all stress induced, whether it's environmental, heredity, all kinds of different factors. So when I was 16 years old, I had the virus in my left eye. And at the time, the gentleman that was treating my eye was a world-renowned optometrist. And so I was seen by him, and I'm the only case that he's ever dealt with this virus, and he's had over 30 years of experience. So, but he knew what the virus was. We knew what route to take, and they were able to save the vision in my left eye when I was 16. And I don't say everything was normal. There was normalcy, but at age 26, I ended up with a traumatic brain injury from a fall. I was
Mm.
home alone, and fell down a flight of stairs in around 11:30 or 12 in the afternoon on a Wednesday, January 9th. And my fiance at the time, now my wife, she, my wife to my beautiful daughter here, who just, of course, joined me, but found me 4 hours later. So around 4:30 when she came home, she called a friend of mine who's actually an ER doc, and he heard me gagging in the background, immediately said he needs to go to the hospital because I was actually finding consciousness in and out. And so when
Right.
she came home, she was confused of my state because I was cognizant talking to her, but there was blood around the carpet and everything.
Right.
So I was hospitalized for 18 days, and I really start to kind of get some memory into the events around 11 days. So the day that I fell, that part of the story, it's kind of been what I've been told over and over and over again. So it's not necessarily a memory, but that's just kind of the timeline of what I've heard.
Right.
So that was when I was 26, and I am now 32 going on 33.
Well, good. So I also from your story that you've provided to me, you were really into basketball, and I think you had said that you wanted to once you lost the vision in your right eye, you wanted to still continue playing basketball to hopefully inspire others that when you are faced with an obstacle that you don't quit, you find ways to get around it. So just so you still were able to play basketball up to when? At what point? When you had your traumatic brain injury, or?
Yeah, so growing up, as long as I can remember, my mom was a single mom, and so I always fell in love with the game of basketball, and it's what I want to do for the youngest age. Grew up in the '90s with Michael Jordan and some other incredible players, incredible teams. My favorite player was Reggie Miller in the Indiana Pacers, and just that passion, the love of Reggie Miller in particular, his style. There was just something about it, and so it's just what I wanted to do. And I wanted to play in the NBA because having a single mom, having love for the game was that opportunity that I thought, you know what, I want to do this for a job. I want to be able to inspire others. I want to be able to show others, and help my mom as a single parent.
Right.
And just that love of the game. There's just some things you have, whether it's sports or music, arts, whatever. There's just this passion. Uh, when I was 13 and lost the vision in my right eye, being at that age and being in that environment of that I'm the man of the house, it was kind of a trying to think of the word here, but it was kind of, let's get back into some normalcy as quick as possible.
Yeah.
So it was because it was always there for me. It's my mom being a single parent. I just spent hours at the gym, and so that was my normalcy. And so I just wanted to return to it as quick as I could. And I was athletic, and I was in great shape. I always have been because of that's just the route I've always gone. And so as I got back to, getting with the doctors of like, look, hey, I want to go shoot, I want to do this, I want to do that, and started seeing progression a little bit. I thought, hey, I need to continue to go with this as far as I can. And the same thing when I was 16 and lost sight in my left eye, and it was kind of the same thing. And I didn't get to play in junior high because of the diagnosis and the medical treatments. But when I was a freshman in college, a best friend of mine who was one of my best friends, a year below me in high school, I'd always played with him, and I always played with older guys growing up. And so even though I wasn't on the team in junior high and high school, I was always around the game, whether
Right.
it was, the mental side of it from the games, watching the games, or, my idols to playing the games in the local gym. So my friend of mine, he said, listen, if you try out for the team, being the college that I was at, it's a small Division III school. He said, look, if you try out next season, I will come to your school. Now, one of the things I found out years later was the coach that was there had actually scouted him and did say to him, that we were going to be having tryouts, but I would like you to come and play in the team. Well, I didn't know that for years later. So basically, he knew he was going to be on the team, but he wanted me to be on the team. He knew that I could be on the team. So I tried out my freshman year, and I made it onto a collegiate roster. And so in college, I played for 2 years. And I played up until my mid-20s, until my traumatic brain injury, because I was for a while anyway, until I met my wife. Now I was single. I just knew what I wanted to do was in basketball, whether it was wanted to try to play, maybe overseas, but maybe get some experience. And eventually I got into coaching, and I've had about 9 years under my belt now, 10 years. And, you know, in college I got into coaching. So I just thought basketball was the path for me. But when I had my traumatic brain injury, again, it was the same situation. I thought basketball was going to be that thing for me to fall back on. But now all of a sudden, I could not do the things that I was used to doing on the court.
Right.
Because of the balance issues. I lost hearing in my left ear. I lost sight in my right eye, which, you know, from when I was 13. So there was a moment where I was playing pickup games, and I don't know exactly when it was. It was sometime after my injury. But I was trying to get back to, you know, a level of playing that I was used to. And so I was at a local gym, and we were playing pickup games, and I was going 100 miles an hour, but my balance issues were off, and all of these things were off. And I remember there was a loose ball, and it wasn't even my fault, but long story short, a long rebound occurred. I didn't get the rebound. This other guy yells an obscenity and blames it on me. And I'm 26 years old. I went in the bathroom at the gym, and I thought to myself, okay, I can't do this anymore. I can't physically and mentally do this anymore. I have to walk away from this game. So I did, and it caused a lot of depression and a lot of, you know, unanswered things of what's my purpose, what's my goal. I always thought that whatever adversities were thrown at me before, it was going to be okay because I was meant to play basketball. So I had that confidence. But I finally found that, you know, that straw that broke the camel's back.
Right.
And so then the one thing after my traumatic brain injury, 8 weeks after, I did do a half marathon.
Yep.
Not really thinking anything of it, but I needed to do something for myself. I needed to be able to say that this is what I can still do, and just, you know, have an identity in something, and being physically fit was my identity. So, you know, it's interesting how things work out, because I still at the time wanted to return to basketball and have that lifestyle. So it wasn't until 2014 when I ran my second half marathon, and then fell in love with running. And that's where my pursuits and purpose are now.
Okay, and so so you're coaching basketball, and now you're focused on your running, and you have a goal of trying to compete for the 2020 Olympics, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
so that's, I mean, just to have that as a goal is showing people that, wow, you know, that's a lofty goal, and I, you know, I know that you have it in you to at least continue working towards that. That's pretty amazing. So you ready for a few questions there, my friend?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So we're going to back up a little bit and talk a little bit more about, you know, your childhood. And because you know, I think people need to know that at any age, no matter what age you are, there are ways that we deal with things, right? And it's not impossible to overcome these things. So before you lost the sight in your right eye as a child, for what you can remember, what limitations, if any, did your diagnosis present to you at that young age?
You know, before the virus attacked my retina, which, you know, that virus, when it attacked my retina, and it actually attacked my retina last year as well, in 2018 November, attacked my left eye again. And every time that this meningitis encephalitis has caused the outbreak of the retinal necrosis, you're never prepared for it. Whether, you know, you might be healthy as you can be, and it's just like stepping outside your house, and all of a sudden, you know, you're walking to work and you get hit by a bus or something. It's something you cannot plan for. So
Right.
growing up, leading up to when I was 13, and having a passion for basketball, and having a mother of, you know, as a single parent, I was, you know, friends with everybody. I was a good, happy-go-lucky kid. And, you know, my mom always told me from a young age that she said I was, you know, a miracle child, and said how thankful she was for me and this and that. So I did always have a sense of pride, and I was proud of that. You know, she told me a little bit about my adversities and what I'd overcome to get there, and really made me feel blessed to be happy and healthy at the age that I was. So everything was great, and I had a great perspective. I've always been positive, you know, and grew up in the church, either with my mom or when we moved, our family, my mom and I moved to Pittsburgh. I was always in or near the church with my grandpa, and that played a significant role in keeping me positive and always moving forward.
Okay. So now let's move forward to when you actually lost the sight in your right eye at the age of 13. What was that like for you, Ben? How did that had to have been a little bit more traumatic, you know, and getting used to that and dealing with that. What were the things that you did then to deal with that?
Well, it was a traumatic, but the one thing though is, and again, it's God plays such a big role in this and in everyone's lives. And sometimes it's personal narrative, sometimes you realize it at the time, and other times later on. But one of the things for me was, I was fortunate that I had a grandfather who, if I had a picture of him, or if you knew him, he looked like he could be almost an identical twin brother of Clint Eastwood. I mean, the guy was like, he was Clint Eastwood. And
Right.
one of the things with my grandfather is the toughest nails, toughest human being I've ever met. So my perspective for me was, and just kind of that family tradition, almost that family name of being a tough family. Um, or from story, he was younger, he there's a chainsaw accident and he lost his arm
Yeah.
completely, and they had to re-sew it on, and this was before they had anesthesia, all these things. So
Wow.
when I lost sight in my eye, the one thing that came to me was, look, if he can do it, I can do it. And
Right.
if he helped raise me, and the mindset that he gave me, the values that he's instilled me, kind of prepared me unexpectedly for losing sight in my right eye. And so I didn't, I maybe had the moment here or there, but really it wasn't much to it at the time. It was, I was 13 years old. So I had friends, I had things I like to do. And so I had things to fall back on that really just kind of, at the time, didn't hit me that hard until, later on down the road. But my mind was just positive and encouraged, and I was ready to figure out how to overcome this.
Okay, good. Well, that's I'm glad you had excuse me, I'm glad you had that support in your life. That's so important, and oftentimes we tend to think that we're alone, right? But there's always somebody there who's ready to lend that hand, to be that support, to be that strength that sometimes we need, whether it's your faith or whether it's somebody in your life. So I'm so glad you had that. Let's move up to, since we've talked about some of this stuff already. So let's move up to. I lost your video there. Are you still there? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There we are.
So
Good. Sorry about that. So when you had your traumatic brain injury, um, how did you work through that? How did you work through through the losing that, a little bit of that memory, and then the other consequences that went with that how did you deal with that?
so that was kind of, like I said, again, the camel that broke, or the straw that broke the camel's back, because you know I was fortunate, because of my passion for basketball, and I was a young age, I was able to come back from the physical deficiencies from the vision in my right eye. But with the traumatic brain injury, it was so significant, from the balance impairment to losing hearing out of my left ear to the cognitive impairments. And so from right away, I was very taken back. Now, when it first occurred, I was very trying to think of the word. When I first came back from the hospital, I wasn't in physical therapy for long, because they said, you're too advanced already to
Well,
have physical therapy at home. And so that was a kind of a pride thing. And that kind of first gave me that initial thinking of, okay, I'm going to get over this right away. It's going to be great. But then the cognitive issues caught up. And once they caught up, I realized that I did not have that physical capabilities to fall back on. And I started having a lot of severe delays. I had a math and reading on the level of a third grader. And
well,
so a lot of things from the first time in my life really started to come in and set doubts in my life, because it was almost like, for the first time, that Jesus is my foundation was shattered. I knew that Jesus was there. I knew that there was, my faith was there, but it was so shattered from having a traumatic brain injury and a fall, and on a concrete, that I just couldn't see it. And in 2014, so a year after my traumatic brain injury, is when I finally got admitted into outpatient brain rehab. And in fall of 2014, I'd lost some weight from 2013 to 2014, because in 2014 my diet finally changed. I lost 36 pounds
Wow.
in about 6 weeks. And but the biggest key for me was I found a way through changing my diet that I was able to finally get some sleep at night. And finally getting sleep at night allowed me to, my brain and my body, to reset, restart. And so, I've been going months and months and months of going 100 miles an hour in brain rehab, and not making progress, to being defeated, because I'm used to being able to do something physically and, having one leg up. But when I finally started getting rest, I was able to get off some medications. And as that happened, I started, finding ways to get back with my faith. And the first verse that really changed things for me, because of how I felt in being broken where I was at, was, for God did not give us a spirit of timidity, but a spirit of power, love, and self-control. And that sentence right there, because timidity, I'm 26 years old, and for the first time in my life, I don't really have an identity. I don't really know who I am. I'm not positive. I'm doubting myself.
Mm.
And that's when running came into play. In 2014, I went back and I ran a half marathon, the second half marathon that I ran. So over a year later, and it was a marathon, a half marathon in my hometown. And because I'd lost weight, that year, when I finished, I finished 21 minutes faster than my first half marathon after my accident, and I felt great. And that's when I realized, okay, wait a minute, I might have found something on the physical side of health that can replace basketball.
Right.
And so that was a huge thing for me, because I was starting to slowly get the idea of how, through reading, getting back to church, reading on a daily basis, and personal development, understanding the pillars of health is emotional, physical, social, and getting these things together. And a huge part of that was the physical side of things, because that's who I, have always been. So once I found that with running, it kind of is solidified or helped me to continue to move in a direction to make progress on an everyday basis.
Good. So not only did you take up running, and like many, yeah, unfortunately, I can't run anymore with my condition, but I ride, and occasionally I'll try to run. It doesn't work out as well as I'd like, but I still, I have the bike, which is great. So not you could have chosen any goal. I'm going to run 10 marathons, in 2 months, or a friend of mine who ran a marathon a month for, actually he did 52 marathons, a marathon a week. So
Wow.
you chose your goal is qualifying for the 2020 Olympics. So just take a couple minutes. How important is that to you, and where are you right now in regard to that goal? And let's just talk about that. Where are you?
Well, so, right now, originally my goal in 2015, I started having the goal of that I wanted to compete in the now, and actually, to go back way back, is in 2012, before my traumatic brain injury, that August of 2012, I actually was outside. I was talking to a friend of mine, a financial advisor, on the phone, and I told him this out of this world goal I had. And so in 2012, I said, I want to compete in the 2016 Olympics. I don't know why, but I have this drive, and I've been watching the summer games a little bit. There's been some things going on in the media. There was a shooting in my hometown. It was the Colorado movie theater shooting.
Yep.
I grew up in that area, and that was getting massive coverage, and people were scared to go to the movie theaters and all these things. And I remember there was a gentleman who saved his fiance in that incident, and I thought, you know what? I've always been in pretty good shape, and I want to do something to say, the word is, but just to be successful and have somebody that's average, to do something extraordinary. And so I just had this crazy goal. And then, so it was funny to me, that I ended up with a traumatic brain injury, and then somehow I still have this goal. And so in 2015, I ran my first full marathon. And originally I didn't want to be in the Olympics for a marathon. I thought I could be maybe a triathlete, something that didn't involve running 26 miles or 13 miles.
Right.
So it's kind of ironic how that worked out. Because I'm not capable of physically riding a bike or really swimming because of different balance issues, things like that. So in 2015, I ran my first full marathon, and it completely kicked my butt.
Right.
I almost finished in just under 6 hours. But when I finished and where I finished, I remember that I was in Pittsburgh, which it was near the area where the year prior, so 2014, I was in brain outpatient rehab 6 days or 5 days a week for 6 hours. And I thought to myself, I'm going to finish this first marathon. And here's the thing. A year ago, I was inside this building for 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. And I was, if I can get through that, and I can now get this. Sorry about that.
That's all right. That's
He's
all right.
all over the place.
You're making me dizzy. No, I'm just joking.
So I thought to myself, if I can get to this first one, why not? What's the worst that could happen? And so that was kind of my mindset. And I just thought, as long as I finish this first one, the competitive drive, I'll find a way. And so fast forward now, from 2015, I now have changed up a little bit. I'm going to be trying to qualify for the Olympics in the half marathon distance. So last year I started finally working with a coach, because I decided and I found out that I cannot be the runner and the coach. I cannot be the player and the coach. So finding a coach helped me to just be the runner. And I've made a lot of progress since 2013, in the half, and then 2015 I've done some fulls. But last September, I was doing a marathon that I've done in the past, and my first goal to set a barometer for the Olympics was to qualify for the Boston Marathon. And so I'm at this race, I'm at the starting line, and I run into a gentleman who looks familiar, and we catch each other's eye, and we're both from different running groups, or from a running group on social media. So he ends up qualifying for the Boston Marathon, and I actually, and it's one of my only running regrets, but I didn't finish that marathon. Mile 20, I mentally on mile 20, I just gave up, that's the first time I ever gave up in one of my marathons. And so I just gave up. So later on, a couple of days later, when I found out that he did in fact qualify and that he was a coach, I was like, wait a minute, you did what I want to do, and you're a coach. Let's get together. If 2 or 3 agree on a common goal, anything is possible. Right. So we started working last September. We started assessing where I'm at, where I've been. And so now training is going really well. And I have until January of 2020 to get qualified for the half marathon. So having a coach that can help on the side of, okay, this is what you need to do. This is the reflections. Now go out and hit this mark, or do this, do that. So far right now, early in 2019, getting ready to try to qualify with some different races this year. It's going pretty well. And I think I'll be able to get the best shot I have.
Well, wow. I mean, well, you got a lot of people pulling for you, because, you inspire so many people on a daily basis. I hope you realize that, the little videos you do, and the way you fight back when the things have gone against you. I'm out there. I'm rooting for you for sure, and I know you got a bunch of other people as well. So as we get ready to wrap this up, what is that golden nugget, that big thing that you can give to the people watching this that are faced with, difficult times in their life? And as I said before, we all are faced with difficulty in our life. We all hit obstacles, and we have a choice. We either give up, or we find a way around it, or we adjust as needed. So what's that golden nugget that you can leave with everybody that's watching this video today?
Well, for me personally, my golden nugget, and for me as a Christian, and what I've learned, and growing up with faith, my faith, getting to the lowest of lows and then coming back into where it's at now, just to have that, the Christ at the center of everything. And the things that you get from that, first, one thing I heard recently in a podcast was, change is inevitable, but growth is optional. So change is inevitable. I had a virus when I was 13, when I was 16, TBI when I was, 26 last year in November to December. I had the same virus that attacked me when I was 13, but now I can see already again. I'm getting back to training. So it's always optional. And I say my life philosophy has become be encouraged every day. To encourage others is to encourage ourselves. To love others is to love ourselves. And if you lead with the heart, the mind will follow. And life is 90% mental, and that's sort of the thing for me. And so everybody has an adversity, and mine's, might be some, crazy not out of this world, but, very unique thing. But it doesn't matter what the adversity it is. Our goal is to understand, and with encouragement is to understand that my blessing is my adversity is someone else's blessing. Just like someone else's adversity is my blessing by choice. What doesn't kill you only makes you stronger by choice. The things that people go through in their life that feels like it's killing them inside, if you just fight, you'll get to a point where your adversity will become your blessing. I look back and I celebrate my traumatic brain injury. I celebrate having meningitis because I can encourage other people, because other people have encouraged me. So it's just that positive mindset, and literally to every day be encouraged every day. That's kind of my biggest golden nugget. And, I have always had big dreams and I always will. And the great thing about that is whether you hit those dreams or not, you're going to become who you're meant to be, the best version of you. Having a traumatic brain injury, having lost sight in my right at a young age, if I didn't really set what they call big, hairy, audacious goals, I probably would have stayed in depression, or I probably would have gone down a different path, because what would there have been?
Right.
So whatever adversity you have, then set a goal 2 or 3 notches above that, with the understanding that that's going to keep you positive. That's going to give you drive. And yes, you might not make it, but you can have an impact along the way. I might not make the, Olympics, but that's not the point. It's the process, it's the journey, and it's encouraging others.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my nuggets, if I can, in a summed paragraph, if I can.
Oh, good. No, that's perfect. That's perfect. I wrote a blog. My blog today was talking about fear, and how, fear is, we all face fear, but it's not letting fear control us. It's overcoming that fear, and using, and instead of fear, having faith in yourself, faith in others, and faith in that process. So that what you just shared with us was amazing. And again, folks, we've been talking to Benjamin Hinton, and Ben is an amazing young man. I can call him a young man because I'm an old man. And he continues to inspire me. I know that he's inspiring all those folks, especially on our Charity Miles Champion page. So you're touching a lot of folks, Ben, and I appreciate it, and I know they do.
Yep.
And I lost you there for a moment. So again, Ben, thanks for joining us today. Keep driving, man. We're all behind you. 2020 Olympics.
Yeah.
Just go for it, brother. Go for it.
Yeah. Yes, go for it. You got to go big or go home.
That's right. All right, Ben. Well, thanks again.
You're welcome. Take care. We'll talk soon.
All right.